we are the NonProphets. I'm your host, Jeff D. Our co-host is Denis Loubet.
Hello.
And our producer, Russell Glasser. Today's opening music was the same as usual. We are not live. Well, I guess... Do I need to explain this? Or should we just skip it? You don't like to do the whole warts and all thing.
No, it's fine.
We are recording this show about 20 minutes late from our normal broadcast time. And only a few people who happen to be present on the Atheist Network message boards are able to hear us live right now because Russell gave them the audio feed link. Are we up to... Five people listening live. Hi, everyone. Tell all your friends, because this is a special, personal episode. What? What's wrong?
What? Oh, I thought you were going to say tell all your friends what the link is, which you
Why
shouldn't, because it can only support 32 listeners at once.
Don't tell anyone!
Right.
Don't tell anyone that you're listening to our show that this is just a special private broadcast for you.
Yeah.
Okay, just one of the little perks of showing up in the chat room during the live show. So in case there's a technical problem, we can't go out to Atheist Network, why then you have this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hear us over a different connection.
Raw and unedited.
We're not live, but we are recording the show June 5, 2004. That's today. Atheist Charities is an organization helping hands to empower and educate those in need without imposing the chains of religion. Counseling, vocational employment services, computer classes, food drives, and educational services are among the many programs that they aim to offer to the working poor to assist in breaking the anchors of poverty. Go to www.atheistcharities.com for more info. Any instances of slurs, defamation, or discrimination against atheists or other non-believers in the U.S. media should be reported to the National Atheist Ombuds by emailing ombuds@atheism.org. Please include as many details as possible and a news source where applicable. Incidents will be reported to participating national and local non-theist organizations who will distribute press releases regarding the reported subject matter. And now news.
All right.
Dennis, do a news.
Do a news?
What's news?
All right. Well, here's the one I've got ready so far.
Yeah?
California lawmakers protest pastor. I'd like to join them, but anyway. Sacramento, California. State lawmakers staged a domestic revolt Monday, some donning kitchen aprons and scarlet M's, to protest a pastor who characterized female legislators with young children at home as sinners.
So who was this prick?
Let's see.
Go ahead.
Democratic Senator Deborah Bowen went barefoot on the Senate floor, bringing along a toaster and other kitchen accessories to her desk.
What the hell?
He says, "Today I'll be serving up $1 billion in savings for PG&E customers, identity theft legislation, along with bacon, eggs, getting my shopping list together, and preparing to can." She said. State legislators were offended by what the Reverend Ralph Drollinger, who leads a Bible study class for lawmakers, wrote during a Bible lesson in April.
Wait, somebody told someone, don't tell anyone. I thought we made this clear. Don't tell anyone where the link is.
I'm telling the chat room people.
Oh.
"It is one thing for a mother to work out of her home while her children are in school," wrote Drollinger. "It is quite another matter to have children in the home and live away in Sacramento for 4 days a week. Whereas the former could be in keeping with the spirit of Proverbs 31, the latter is sinful."
I hate to interrupt your news story. To remind our producer that if you post the link in the text of the chat room, you're going to have to edit that out.
Yeah, I will.
Okay. All right.
The Bible says God has given men and women... The Bible says God has given men and women different roles, Drollinger said. Man's is primarily to be a breadwinner, and women's is to be at home nurturing their children.
What an ass.
"I'm all for female legislators serving our great state with all of their giftedness.
I think men should be allowed to stay home and nurse their children also."
I think so, too. "If they have children at home, they need to share those gifts with their children. Then, after that, how do you pronounce that?
Ecclesiastes.
Ecclesiastes says there is a season that they can serve in the legislature. Now, Capital Ministries Bible study classes once met in the governor's suite of offices. But Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger told Drollinger to move when Drollinger referred to Roman Catholicism as a false religion. Schwarzenegger and his wife are Catholic.
Yeah, well, you know, Arnie, it is a false religion. What are you going to do about it? Russell, do you want to go or shall I?
Oh, yeah.
News.
Here's something a little bit wacky. It's from WorldNet Daily, so I probably didn't even need that disclaimer. Christians look to form new nation within the U.S.
Oh.
Same-sex marriage called last straw, prompting plan for one state to secede.
Wow.
Calling the approval of same-sex marriage in Massachusetts the straw that broke the camel's back, a group of Christian activists is in the beginning stages of an effort to have one state secede from the United States.
Wait, did they say which state? Please make it Alabama.
No, I think it's South Carolina. No, wait. Oh, they're considering several. Our Christian republic has declined into a pagan democracy, says Corey Burnell.
Okay, let me get this straight. They're gonna have, they're gonna do something like akin to what caused the Civil War. Right? They want to secede from the United States, and they're shopping around to decide which state is gonna secede. Is that it?
Yeah.
That is nuts. Go ahead.
You know, I'm guessing that our 49-state army could take their army.
Yeah, I'd like to see them try.
Yeah. Corey Burnell, president of ChristianExodus.org, a nonprofit corporation based in Tyler, Texas.
I tell you, man, the religion is all about coming up with these insane schemes of, things you're going to do for everybody's benefit. Mm-hmm. In this case, everybody who's in your flock, right?
Yeah.
In this case, secede a state from the Union.
You know what's
for
best?
The express purpose of collecting money. Tell me where it says they're collecting money.
And
if it doesn't say it in the news story, we'll go to the frickin' website and see how they're collecting money.
You guys in the chat room can go to, you 6 people who are listening, could go to ChristianExodus.org and see where it says that we need to give them money.
Yeah, how much? Are they selling like citizenship in the new nation or something?
There are some issues people just can't take anymore, and same-sex marriage might finally wake up the complacent Christians. Burnell is leading the charge for a peaceful secession.
The hell business is it of yours, asswipe? If you don't want to marry a gay guy, don't. What's the problem?
It's icky. It's icky just knowing that icky stuff goes on.
Yeah, so is sewage treatment plants. We don't secede from the nation because we have sewage treatment plants.
I'm sure she wouldn't mind if...
No offense to people that work in the sewage industry.
Couples did all their stuff in sewage treatment plants. You probably wouldn't have an objection.
I no offense to people that work in the sewage treatment industry. I'm sure it's a very noble and honorable calling.
In fact, they are.
I find it creepy, but I'm certainly not going to suggest that you ought to, that I ought to leave the country because you're able to pursue that line of work here.
Yeah, well, okay, I got it. They're afraid that there's going to be a repeat of Sodom and Gomorrah, where because some people get gay married, everybody in the town is going to... Everybody in the country...
Then they should start building a big frickin' boat. Okay, I know that's not
the wrong story.
But why don't they think that that's going to happen? Build a big damn boat, nobody cares, collect your money to build an ark, and then when the flood doesn't come, you can charge tickets for admission or something, right? Turn it into a big zoo. No, but
in Sodom and Gomorrah, everybody died, right? I don't remember how. Some people got turned into pillars of salt.
That was the wife
of Lot.
Lot's wife who turned around and looked.
Yeah. But one way or another, everybody died horrible deaths. But if
they
we
did that by leaving.
Our own little country,
they didn't. But in Sodom, in that story, the story of Lot's wife, they weren't like just pulling back into one little section of Sodom or of Gomorrah, right? They weren't just isolating themselves in this little region and saying, here is going to be protected by God and the rest will go to crap.
Right.
No,
but,
they
but
left
if
the
there'd
damn
been a
country.
whole-
Leave the damn country.
If there'd been a whole
You
separate
people-
town, they're thinking that this is like leaving the country. They're like, well,
Well, it's
we'll
not.
just be
But you're
hiding holes in
not. You're
Alabama.
morons.
They're making it not part of the country and moving into it, so...
Plus, these are the same asswipes, same kind of asswipes, who are always telling us, if you don't like it, leave. Well, you don't like it? Leave. It's very simple.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd be happy to have you in Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
The plan initially
No offense
called...
to Ecuador.
Oh, I didn't read the list of states.
And not wishing a huge swarm of fundamentalist nitwits descending on them, but I
they have settled
Had to
on a
pick some.
state.
I had to pick somewhere.
They have settled on a state.
Have they?
After originally considering
Georgia.
Alabama, Mississippi, and South Carolina due
Yeah.
to their relatively small populations, coastal access, and the Christian nature of the electorate, Burnell says South Carolina, ding,
There
has
you go.
been selected as the target location.
Ding, 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 ding.
The plan initially calls for at least 12,000 Christians willing to be active in political campaigns to move to the Palmetto State.
You know that garbage barge that went from state to state many, many years ago? That would be a good place for them to move on.
I'm thinking wall. Anybody? I'm going to start a new website.
Yeah?
walloffthechristians.com.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
They're gonna build a new
Terrific. It
Christian
would be
nation
a
in
wall
South
of
Carolina.
separation.
That's right. Wall of separation between the United States and those idiots. We'll collect money to buy bricks, and we'll just brick off the entire circumference of South Carolina.
I like it. I like this.
I'm going to write that down. Wall off the
We saw how effective it was in Berlin.
.com. Yeah, but but these things are not about actually getting anything done.
That's right.
Right? They are about collecting money.
Yeah.
Fine. I'd like some money. Here's my cause. Here's how I'm going to make the world a better place for everyone that agrees with me.
Wall off the eyesore. Brain sore.
All right.
One of your stories now?
Yeah, I'll do one.
End of this article. For now, Burnell prefers to shy away from specifics on the precise laws governing the country. Independence first, details later, he says.
Oh my gosh.
Sieg Heil, sir.
Like rounding up all the atheists who actually live in South Carolina right now and don't feel like moving.
Right, and we just hope that the homosexuals that live there are really like pink triangles. Yeah, that would be.
No, they'd have to like being executed.
Probably.
We are talking about fundamentalists here, and they got rules.
Yeah, stoned.
Stoned to death.
Stoned. Yep. Secede from the nation, you idiots! Okay. There was a study that came out shortly after 9/11, October 2001, claiming that praying for women who were receiving in vitro fertilization treatment, that there would double their chances of conceiving. This study was published through Columbia University.
You know, if true, that would actually constitute evidence for the existence of a God.
Many Americans took it as a sign from God. It seemed to prove that praying helped infertile women to conceive. However, one of the study's authors has been exposed as a con man obsessed with the paranormal who has admitted to a multi-million-dollar scam. Daniel Worth, now under house arrest in California awaiting sentencing, has used a series of false identities for several decades, including that of a dead child.
A Christian is a con man?
It doesn't say Christian.
Oh, okay.
It says obsessed with the paranormal.
All right.
Worth is at the center of a network
they
of...
are. Never mind, go ahead. Sorry.
But there's different...
I know. There's different
There's
paranormal.
different flavors, and we want to be clear about
Yeah.
which ones we're talking about. Worth is at the center of a network of bizarre scientific research, often working with co-researcher Joseph Horvath. Horvath has pled guilty to fraud, has used a series of false names, and is accused of burning down his own house for the insurance money.
Wow.
The study claimed to show that a woman's chances of conceiving through in vitro fertilization treatment doubled when someone prayed for them. The study was based on an in vitro fertilization program in Korea. Prayer groups in the United States, Canada, and Australia were shown anonymous pictures of women on the program and asked to pray. The subjects were not told they were part of the study, but the results claimed to show that the group had double the success rate of a group not being prayed for. The research listed 3 authors of the study, Daniel Wirth and 2 Columbia fertility specialists, Dr. Kwang Cha and Dr. Rogerio Lobo. Kwang Cha has since left Columbia and now helps to run fertility clinics in Los Angeles and Korea. Lobo is still in California. Neither returned phone calls or emails requesting an interview. Wirth's lawyer, William Arbuckle, also failed to return calls. On May 18, Wirth pleaded guilty to multi-million-dollar fraud charges against U.S. cable telecommunications company Adelphia Communications. While working for Adelphia, Horvath had steered $2.1 million of contracts to Wirth. The pair now face up to 5 years in jail and $250,000 in fines.
You know, there's so many books written trying to bring together science and religion. That's what happens when you bring together science.
When there's money in it, yeah.
Yeah, there's money.
It has emerged that Wirth has no medical qualifications. He graduated with a law degree and then took a master's in parapsychology at John F. Kennedy University in California, where he met Horvath. They have co-authored numerous pieces of research claiming to prove paranormal activities. Many of them are linked to a body called Healing Sciences Research International, which Wirth leads. However, the institute appears to be only a mailbox with no telephone number. Horvath also has a long criminal history and has used many fake identities, including Joseph Hessler, a child who died in Connecticut in 1957. It was as Hessler that he was jailed for fraud in 1990. But it was as John Truelove, using the same false identity that one of the same false identities that Wirth uses, that he was arrested in 2002 for burning down his own bungalow in order to claim the insurance. He's also pled guilty to practicing medicine without a license after posing as a doctor in California.
Charming.
Skeptical scientists liken the two to a pair of con men, similar to the character played by Leonardo DiCaprio in the film Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, sounds like.
They seem to think they were cleverer than anyone else. Columbia, now here's the scary part. Columbia University would not comment on the Wirth case. However, shortly after the prayer and fertility study was published, the Department of Health began an investigation into the university's research. It found numerous ethical problems. Lobo, a respected scientist who was named initially as the lead author of the research, had only provided editorial review and assistance with publication on the study. Scientists are pressing Columbia and the Journal of Reproductive Medicine to disown the research. But the JRM still has the study on its website. Phone calls to the journal were not returned. Columbia removed the press release announcing the study from its online archive shortly after receiving requests from scientists for comment after Wirth's fraud charges. But the university has not officially commented, ignoring clarification requests for the Commission for Scientific Medicine and Mental Health.
The hell are they trying to do?
So,
on their arms and legs in, hoping it'll blow over.
But it's all about getting the money.
Yep.
Right? You find some group that really wants to believe something, and you tell them, yeah, we'll prove that's true, or yeah, we'll take up that cause for you. And they'll open up their pockets and you make money. That is what it's about. Okay. That would be your turn then.
Oh, okay.
We'll just go round and round and round, shan't we?
Now, remember a couple of years ago, there was this guy named Cardinal Law.
Yeah. You know, we did a segment on him and others of his ilk called the Back Pedophilia Scandal Update.
Right. Well, he resigned, right? Yeah, he resigned.
Yeah.
So
what's he up to these days?
You'd think, okay, it's over.
He's working at a car wash, right?
Yeah, you should think he's working at a car wash. Well, no. Cardinal Law given post at Vatican.
At the Vatican
The Vatican.
Really?
Yeah.
Let me clarify. The Vatican is the same big building full of assholes.
Yes.
That's been going around trying to browbeat American politicians into voting the way they want them to vote.
The very one.
Okay. And also it's the big building full of people who like to take down little boys' pants.
Yes. And Cardinal Law should feel at home here. So, let's see. Cardinal Bernard F. Law, who was forced to resign as leader of the Roman
I hate these people.
Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston after a long and painful sexual abuse scandal involving clergy members.
Not painful enough, clearly.
Was chosen by Pope John Paul II on Thursday to head a basilica in Rome.
What's a basilica?
Wow.
It's a big building.
Where they take little boys?
I guess so. The statement said that Cardinal Law, 72, would succeed the 82-year-old Italian Cardinal Carlo Furno, but it did not say when. It made no mention of Cardinal Law's new responsibilities, but a Vatican official said that now he will be responsible for one of the 4 most important basilicas in Rome. He will be in charge of the administration of the priests and anything related to the basilica.
Boy, that'll teach you.
Boy, if that wasn't where they used to take the little boys, it is. Once Law is there, it will definitely be the place.
Yeah. He will be in charge of the administration of the priests and anything related to the basilica, the official said of Cardinal Law. He added that the post is not a position of power. The what?
He has authority over all this stuff and the people that work there, right? It's that much power.
Right.
So if the people that work there want to get away with molesting little boys or girls, he can continue in his, in his efforts to make sure that they don't have to pay for it.
Right. The appointment angered the Cardinal's critics and others who see it as a reward. Well, duh, it is.
Uh-huh.
Why can't the Vatican officials see that any position of honor afforded to Law will inevitably and needlessly cause more pain to hundreds who have been abused and have already suffered enough?
Not counting the dozens or hundreds more who will be abused afterward.
Right. It just rubs salt into already deep wounds for parishioners, victims, and their families.
The guy is like, I don't know if he's ever apologized.
Oh, no, probably.
I don't know if Law ever
has.
apologized for his facilitation of pedophilia by priests under his authority on his watch.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has.
Like in the Bush administration, being sorry is considered a sign of weakness.
Right. It's pretty offensive for most Catholics, and the timing couldn't be worse, said David Gibson, author of The Coming Catholic Church.
That's David Gibson? Any relation to Mel?
I have no idea. They're just cleaning up the mess in Boston and closing parishes, and he's getting the ultimate golden parachute. He's getting a beautiful apartment in Rome in one of the 4 major basilicas in Christendom. Despite his resignation in Boston, Cardinal Law has remained a powerful American figure in the Vatican. He has posts in as many as 9 Vatican congregations or departments, including the one that determines church leadership worldwide by nominating candidates for bishop. He is a member of the Congregation for Clergy, which has a role in handling sexual abuse cases that are sent to Rome. The appointment could be financially lucrative for Cardinal Law. His predecessor in the job, Cardinal Furno, received a €10,000 monthly stipend, or about $12,000 a month, said a former Vatican official who is a friendly acquaintance of Cardinal Furno. Cardinal Furno lived in a palatial apartment alongside the right flank of the basilica that is reserved for the archpriest, said the formal official who spoke on condition of anonymity. It's a classical Roman apartment with frescoes on the wall, the former official said. Cardinal Furno paid for costly renovations, he said, adding, it's endless.
Man.
The appointment is also likely to make Cardinal Law one of the most influential Americans in the Vatican, and the job will give him considerable autonomy. While at the Maryland convent, he was technically under the authority of the local bishop. Now he answers to no one but the Pope, the former Vatican official said.
Oh, man.
Oh, he's not in a position of power, and this isn't a reward, not at all. I'm almost tempted to go out and molest some children, goddammit. If I get this kind of treatment, that'd be awesome. God damn it.
Yeah. Now I do want to go back and do one more story here because I got more on this sort of topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Lest anyone has forgotten what the Catholic Church has been up to for untold decades and or centuries or millennia.
I'm unaware. What would it be?
And to dispel any misunderstanding I may have just caused by insinuating that Catholic priests are only after little boys.
Uh-huh.
Priest defrocked after allegations of abusing girls studying to become nuns.
Oh, well, at least the research...
He was also defrocked before the allegations.
The Organization for Family Research will be happy to know that he's a heterosexual molester. That's good.
A priest accused of sexually abusing girls studying to become nuns has been removed from the priesthood, the Archdiocese of Boston announced Tuesday. That would be the same Archdiocese of Boston that used to be headed by Cardinal Law,
Oh, my
who is
God.
now in charge of this basilica, right?
Right.
Only now, at least, and I'll give them points for this, right? Now, instead of saying, oh no, that couldn't possibly be true, and how dare you insult us, you know, and here's our lawyers to protect us from any investigation, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're saying, oh, they caught him, he's out on his ass. Okay?
Okay.
They defrocked him. They caught him, they defrocked him.
Cool.
Robert V. Meffan allegedly recruited girls to become nuns and then molested them, according to documents in Meffan's personnel file made public in 2002. So it's taken him 2 years to get rid of him.
What?
And wasn't Law still in charge in 2002? So I guess, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. This is just more, you know, cleaning out the
obvious cases
that came to light on Cardinal Law's watch.
Mm-hmm.
Meffan allegedly persuaded the girls to perform sexual acts as a way of progressing with their religious studies, according to 1993 letters from Sister Catherine E. Mulcairn to her boss, the Reverend John B. McCormick, a top aide to Cardinal Bernard Law, and now Bishop of the Diocese of Manchester, New Hampshire. Meffan allegedly described himself as, quote, the second coming of Christ, unquote, and encouraged the girls to, quote, be brides of Christ, unquote.
Well, in for a for a penny, in for a pound.
I think that may be considered blasphemous by some sects.
And it took him 2 years after these documents came out. It took him 2 years to do anything. Meffan did everything but intercourse, one woman told church officials, because he said that was for the afterlife.
I did not have sex with that woman.
The first allegation against Meffan was made in 1993 about acts that took place in the 1960s.
Oh.
The Archdiocese issued a short statement Tuesday saying that as of May 20, Meffan is no longer a priest. Because Meffan has been defrocked, he can no longer be referred to as a priest. But, what? I certainly can.
Maybe they'll make him a leading figure in the Vatican tomorrow.
I'm just curious about that sentence and why it's even in here. Yeah, obviously he's not in the organization anymore, but it seems like that is a point being made to distance that guy
absolutely.
From the organization, and or more importantly, the organization from any responsibility for him. He cannot be referred to as a priest and cannot perform any sacraments or other priestly duties.
He was performing too many priestly duties before, yes.
Wow. So it's, we haven't talked a lot about this recently because there's been so much other horrendous bullshit going on in the world.
Right.
But let's not forget that the Catholic Church is freaking evil. They coddle people who perform these sexual depravities, and the people who do the coddling.
Yeah.
They reward them for having done the coddling with great big palatial residences in Rome.
And new responsibilities.
And $144,000 a year.
Yeah.
It's a lot of bread.
Oh.
It's not going to stop until until that entire organization is put out of business. Russell, why don't you go ahead? And then we'll skip me and go right back to Dennis.
I've got 2 bits of silliness that I could go for. I could do this website, or I could do Billy Graham's column.
Do whatever you want.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
I'd like to
pictures.
I'd like to bring to your attention a website that I found this week. It's busheslord.com.
Bush is Lord.
If anyone wants to take a couple of minutes to go there and just browse the pictures as Dennis is doing right now.
And they're awesome pictures.
These are actual media pictures. I mean, I don't know about all of them, but I've seen some of them at least on like Yahoo News stories. So I know that they're not satirical.
I love the one with the golden crown floating over his head.
This one here?
No, the first one.
Oh, right.
So,
because, okay.
He almost looks like Hellboy there. He's got that...
What we're looking at is a bunch of media images, cleverly engineered by Karl Rove, probably, of Bush standing in front of various backdrops so that he looks like a big religious figure.
Right. There's the seal of the President of the United States
in the background.
Behind his head, as if it was a halo.
Yes, and
it happens to be gold.
My favorite one is this one here with the chandelier in the top
chandelier
right.
As a
There's
halo.
a chandelier that just happens to have been caught at the right angle by the camera, so that it's perfectly centered on his head as a big friggin' halo. And then there's various flag halos
and huge crosses.
Bush is caught in front of an American flag with a ring of stars happening to ring his head just so. And you can't see this picture here, but if you click on one of the links, Bush is standing there holding his hand out in a very confident gesture, and right behind him there's a gigantic mural of Jesus gesturing downward toward him.
God,
it's just this is a satire site. Busheslord.com.
Right,
I followed
gathered
some of their
all these
links.
images where Bush has been portrayed in pictures in a religious context. Does it say on that site where they got the images? That would be useful
I haven't browsed them enough.
All right.
But I'll bet it mentions them.
Wow. Wow. Dennis?
Okay. Bush visited Rome yesterday.
He did?
Yeah.
Yesterday?
And 500,000 people protested Bush's visit to Rome.
All right.
Thousands filled Rome's streets Friday to protest President Bush's visit and their own country's involvement in the Iraq War, CNN reported. Police deployed some 10,000 officers around Rome as an estimated 500,000 protesters protested Bush's arrival and Italy's active support of the U.S. war in Iraq. Protests, which were largely peaceful, reached a peak shortly after Bush had an audience with Pope John Paul II in Vatican City. This is the same guy who gave Cardinal Law the big nice thing there. During that meeting, Bush gave the pontiff the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest U.S. honor given to civilians.
Right, because he made sure that priests are free to molest little boys.
Little boys, yeah. On the first stop of his 36-hour...
if you can get away with that and people still venerate you, that's pretty frickin' astonishing.
Yeah, that's amazing. They've succeeded. On the first stop of his 36-hour European tour, Bush also met with Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi, a supporter of the Iraq War. The Prime Minister has committed troops to the conflict despite the opposition of a majority of Italians. 20 Italian soldiers and 4 civilians have been killed in the war. On Saturday, Bush travels to Paris to meet French President Jacques Chirac, another war opponent, before heading to Normandy on Sunday to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the D-Day invasion.
Yeah, well, Chirac's pretty frickin' cool.
Yeah.
I do not agree with the whole headscarf ban thing that they're doing over there.
Right.
I think that is a mistake.
Yeah.
But on most other even bigger issues, he's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Russell, I'll take a turn.
Okay.
Here's something that...
I'm convincing the skeptics in the chat room that these pictures are not just Photoshop jobs.
Oh, no.
Well, they may well be Photoshop jobs. The question is, were they done by the guys that run the site, or were they done by actual news outlets that provided the pictures? All right.
Well, what's your story?
I wish I still had a link to this article. Found a very cool article over the past couple of weeks about a study that was done, which purported to show that peer pressure alone could cause up to 35% of people tested, given sufficient peer pressure, to say things that were just outright, blatantly not true. In the actual test, what they did was they had a row of 7 or 8 people sitting looking at a bar graph. And they were asked, one after the other, which bar is the tallest bar? Now really, all of the people, except for the last one, were put up to it by the folks running the experiment. It was really an experiment on the very last guy. What they found was that it was either if 7 out of 8 or 6 out of 7, I forget the exact number, people all agreed that something that was obviously not really the tallest bar was the tallest bar. 35% of the time, the last guy would just go along with it.
Right.
I find this really, really interesting. I find those numbers really, really interesting, right? Because, you know, it's always bothered me. Why is it? I remember when I was a kid, right? Christianity pretty much dominated everything.
Yeah.
But there were people that weren't Christians. But there was not this big outcry, oh, Christianity's being persecuted, they're out to destroy us, right? This whole big push to, like, sink their claws into the legal structure of our country.
And do everything.
Right? It just seemed like something happened that really frightened them. And I could never figure out what it was. Because it's not... Now we've got studies showing that in the last 10 years... we've like doubled the percentage of people that don't go to church in our country from like 8% to 16%, somewhere in there. But that doesn't, I mean, okay, so it's growing, but it's not like it's coming anywhere near to challenging the authority or power or incomes of these churches. So what is it? Well, if it's, here's the other thing that they found in that study, which is really interesting. If even one of the other people that said which bar was the tallest bar disagreed with the others before it got to the last guy, the test subject would almost every time go back to really saying what was the tallest bar in the graph. Right? They'd go back to having their own opinion based on the facts. And that's that percentage, right? 1 in 7 and 1 in 8. That's about where we're getting with the percentage of people who do not identify themselves with any religion. So I'm wondering if this is a real psychological trait shared by human beings, right? This willingness to abdicate personal choice and just go with the crowd at a certain amount of
peer pressure.
With a certain degree of peer pressure, right? A certain percentage of their fellows all saying one thing. Then there might be an equal psychological trait to start screaming and yelling when the dissenters begin growing above a certain amount. That's what I'd like to see a study on.
Oh.
Right? It also makes me feel much better about what we're doing here and what the Atheist Network is doing, right? What the Americans United for the Separation of Church and State is doing, what American Atheists is doing, what the Center for Inquiry is doing, right?
Yeah.
These are all...
We're being the one before the last guy.
Yeah, we're being the guys who, if this is indicative of some actual inherent human psychological trait, then we are being those guys that free up others so that they can look at the actual facts and speak their mind. I hope that is true. But, I don't actually know. So I found it interesting then when I came upon this article from Britain. The Archbishop of Canterbury in Britain is calling upon Christians to engage with unbelievers, which does not mean get engaged to. It means talk with them and try to convince them to be Christians.
Right.
Right? And that's very unusual in Britain, it seems to me, right?
Yeah.
British Christian churches have not been evangelistic. Also, they're way in the minority, and have been for a long time.
They're dying there, yeah.
But something's happening that's making those guys think, oh my gosh, we've got to start convincing people to agree with us, or we're in trouble. Preaching at the shrine of Our Lady of Walsingham, the nation's favorite spiritual place, I guess, is it?
Okay, I don't know. I have no idea. I've never heard of it.
The shrine of Our Lady of Walsingham.
Yeah?
Some kind of British thing. The nation's favorite spiritual place, according to a recent poll, the Archbishop said that, quote, the unbeliever cannot manage to get out of his or her head the idea that God is an unfriendly alien. You know, maybe it's that whole, like, eternal torment thing, dickwad. Maybe if you weren't in a religion where your God was this unfriendly alien who doomed us all to eternal torment unless we leap through a hoop for him so that he'll let us off the hook, you know, maybe we'd be able to get that idea out of our heads. Seems to me the reason that idea is in our heads is because that's what the fucking evidence indicates.
Right. You haven't presented an alternative. What you describe is an unfriendly alien.
And also that unbelievers can't get it out of their heads that people who believe in God become, quote, boring at best and dangerous at worst. I wouldn't have used the word boring.
No.
I would use the word stupid.
Stupid. That's good.
Stupid at best. At least in specific areas where the ridiculous religious beliefs tell them to act in some way other than reason would dictate. Dr. Williams, who went head-to-head on the existence of God with atheist and popular author Philip Pullman in the National Theater in March, said, quote, the half-life is ultimately the life without faith.
Gee, and here I thought it was the amount of time that it
meaningless
took.
Statement.
Here I thought that it was the amount of time that it took radiation to
decay. Fuck is he talking about?
He is saying that those of us that don't have religious faith
are living half
in his God, by the way, right? He's not going to extend this to,
Jews.
Hindus.
Yeah.
That we are living where our lives are half as full as those of Christians.
Well, I've probably molested half the children that he has.
You have?
Well, no.
No. There's no pedophilia scandal in Britain that I am aware of. At least outside the Catholic Church in Britain.
Right.
But once again, I mean, I can't get it out of my head that religious nitwits like him are unfriendly because they say crap like that about me.
Right. Of course they're unfriendly.
So, anyway, I find this interesting. Anybody here been proselytized at recently? Either of you have encountered anyone, family, anyone trying to get you to believe religious bullcrap, arguing in favor of it against your snide comments or anything like that?
Well, since I go to alt-atheism, I get it all the time. But no.
And I was on the TV show a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah? Anything worth discussing happened there?
No, we talked about a lot of evolution stuff, but
I really think that it's interesting. This whole push for evangelism spilling out into places like Britain.
Yeah.
Where, religion has, according to some other religious leader there, and it could have been the same guy, Christianity's already lost. And nobody fucking cares. Right? But now turning around and saying, well, we got to turn people into Christians. Why can't they be content to just believe what they want and leave everybody else alone? I understand what it is with us atheists, right? I understand why we're such, those of us that are outspoken, I understand why we're such outspoken busybodies. Because we look around and we see our fellow human beings doing ridiculously stupid things.
Right. We want to say, stop that.
And we think that, human beings are valuable, have...
Wait, Roxy 641 says she is in the UK, and Catholic priests do, in fact, abuse children there.
Do they?
Yes.
I'm sorry to hear that. Make them stop. We take that attitude, right, and feel that it's acceptable to go up to people that express religious views, or react to people who express religious views.
Right. I mean, we don't go door to door.
No, we don't go door to door. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but we don't go door to door. But we do think it's appropriate to speak up when some religious nitwit is getting a lot of attention. But we say that because we think people deserve the facts, right?
Well,
with Christianity, I don't get it. They believe that what human beings deserve is to be tortured forever.
Well, they don't want people to go to hell, or so.
But why do they bother saving them then? I can understand wanting to save personal friends and relatives, right? It's like, I've got this secret way that you don't have to wind up in hell, and I'm going to go to the people I like and try to prevent them from going in there.
Because they've got secret knowledge. They've got this knowledge about God, and it's no good if other people don't believe it.
Why is it no good then?
It doesn't give them any... It doesn't give them any benefit.
I see. They don't feel any personal thrill.
They don't feel...
Well, I can understand that.
They don't feel that.
There is an actual thrill to be had from being right. I feel it all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
But
they just arbitrarily decide they're right and then try to fulfill that.
Okay, sure. So it is a self-aggrandizing thing then, right? I really do, when I'm outspoken against stupid religious stuff, I really am outspoken because I'm concerned about the damage it's going to do to society at large. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not for my own self-aggrandizement. It's not.
Right.
Well, if I believed that a large majority of the world was going to go to a place where they would burn forever, and I thought that I had a way to prevent that.
You had information that could turn that around.
I think I would want to go around.
Yeah, but now what if you also believe that they all deserve it?
Well, now that gets to the root of the religion. The whole purpose of it is to avoid responsibility for your actions. I mean, the whole thing about salvation is to avoid responsibility for your sins.
I think Christians...
If you didn't avoid responsibility, that would mean go to hell.
But that addresses the question of why would an individual want to sign up? I'm asking, why would a person who has signed up, what is their motive for going and getting other people to sign up?
The Bible
that's a huge central thing in Christianity.
Well, there was one
proselytizing.
There was
Their
one
religion
priest
tells you to. It says that in order to be a really excellent Christian,
be a witness,
you should
blah,
go around.
Blah, blah. Yeah.
But also, I think that Christians have
I guess I understand now why they would have to make such a big deal out of that, because it doesn't really make any sense.
Now, if we believe I think there was one priest or religious figure that said, when you're in heaven, the screams of the damned in hell will be music to your ears. Maybe they just want more screaming in heaven. I mean, more screaming in hell. No, that doesn't work. That works against the whole conversion thing. Never mind.
Oh, I see where you were going. Because then they'd want people to wind up in hell, because the more screaming, the more music.
The more music they get.
That's it. Well, nobody's ever accused Christianity of making sense.
No.
But
I suspect that your typical Christian experiences a certain amount of cognitive dissonance, as it were. I mean, they want to believe that that everybody really deserves to go to hell, because that's the only way they can convince themselves that their religion isn't a horrible, evil thing. But on the other hand...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, okay.
But
it's like what you were saying, Dennis, earlier about...
Let him finish.
But on the other hand, Nobody really believes that. I mean, you take, your little 2-year-old son. If you want to be consistent with Christianity, you have to believe that your 2-year-old son deserves to go to hell. Now, do you believe that? You can tell yourself you do, but I don't think you can really feel that way.
Ooh, I'm afraid some people can. I am afraid a lot of people can.
They have to work really hard to convince themselves of it.
They get that big switch out, and they beat the evil out of their...
I don't think left to their own devices.
You know what I think that they work really hard to convince themselves of? They work really hard to convince themselves that they have already secured little Johnny's place in heaven.
Right.
Right. That somehow something they've done has made it so even though Johnny deserves to go, he's not gonna, so they don't have to worry about it.
Right. But they still have to convince themselves of the fact. And I think it's the same with... Okay, Christianity believes that people are basically evil. I don't. I naively believe that people tend to want to do good more than they want to do evil. And that being the case, I think that Christians who actually believe in this hell stuff feel bad that so many people are going to hell, even if they tell themselves they shouldn't because God says they deserve it.
Yeah. So now, in my case, when I let my parents know that by not being secretive enough, I let my parents know that I was an atheist, right? And they are both Methodist ministers.
It could be a little stressful.
The reaction, I mean, my dad didn't really deal with it, right? He made some offhanded comment about how skeptics just don't want to believe or something, some prejudicial
poison the well.
Comment like that. With my mom, the whole thing is, oh, how could you tell me that I'm not going to be with your grandma in heaven? Right? The actual reason to convince, and I guess this gets back to another slightly less creepy aspect of the needing other people to believe it thing, right? And it gets back to that whole peer pressure deal.
Mm-hmm.
There's no frickin' evidence that anybody ever went to heaven or hell ever, right?
Right. You don't get the $1 million until you leave town. That's what Hank says.
Exactly. So there's this peer pressure thing going on, right? And for me to be an atheist makes me one of those people out of 7 or 8 that doesn't believe, pushing the balance toward the point where my mom might have to deal with the fact that there's actually going to be death.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, it's a self-defense thing rather than a self-aggrandizement thing.
You run away from the facts.
Where, my only response to that is people ought to just, grow up and deal with it. But that tends not to be a very loving-sounding message.
No.
I don't know what to do about that.
This segues into a story I've got.
Yeah?
Okay.
The Pope worries about soulless U.S. life.
I thought a soul was life. I thought that was the point of a soul. A soul is the thing that makes you be alive.
Pope John Paul, apparently, too, warned several U.S. bishops Friday that American society is in danger of turning against spirituality in favor of materialistic desires, giving way to a soulless vision of life.
Now, can I again just jump in here and point out statistics show only like 14 to 16% of the U.S. public does not identify with a religion?
Yeah.
So
how is this?
Why is it?
How is this a crisis?
Yeah. Why does he think it's a crisis now? I think it has to do with that psychology.
Yeah. To fight this, the pontiff argues, the U.S. Church must study contemporary culture to find a way to appeal to youths. Well, Cardinal Law sure did. He made his remarks to bishops from Indianapolis, Chicago, and Milwaukee who were making a periodic visit to the Vatican.
There was something else in the news about the Jesus is my homie t-shirts.
Uh-huh.
Is that what he means?
No, I don't think so. The American church is called to respond to the profound religious needs and aspirations of a society increasingly in danger of forgetting its spiritual roots and yielding to a purely materialistic and soulless vision of the world, Jean Paul said.
God,
they're not agreeing with me.
We've already abandoned our astrological roots, mostly.
Yeah.
Right? When we have astronomy taught, as a science and not as a supernatural technique for figuring out what's going to happen in the future. It's the same kind of thing. There's nothing wrong with getting rid of our spiritual roots if spirituality is frickin' stupid.
John Paul added, an effective proclamation of the gospel in contemporary Western society will need to confront directly the widespread spirit of agnosticism and relativism, which has cast doubt on reason's ability to know the truth, which alone satisfies the heart's restless quest for meaning.
Oh. Whoa, let me read that last sentence again.
That's pretty amazing.
Widespread spirit of agnosticism and relativism casts doubt on reason's ability to know the truth, which alone satisfies... Okay, so they're saying...
Right.
We need to not doubt that we can reason our way to belief in a God. Right? Which is the same thing as saying we need to believe that belief in God isn't irrational. Because believing it's not irrational is what satisfies our quest for meaning. Then we can latch on to something like Catholicism.
Yeah.
Say, well, that makes sense, and be happy. Well,
duh.
Well, but there are actual valid philosophical issues there about how much about truth we can know. Right? How definitively can we make statements about the nature of reality? Sure, right? Because solipsism might be true.
He's bringing up the point that, we can't know anything for sure.
Right.
We're using reason. But using faith, boy, you can know stuff for sure.
Yeah. I think what people need to get past is this need to know stuff for sure.
Right.
I deal with... I'm sure all of us in our daily lives deal with situations where we don't know something for sure.
Right.
And,
uncertainty.
And that's not pleasant. But it's the way that makes sense. If we went around taking everything that we weren't sure of and leaping to some conclusion or another all the time, that's not going to make it any more pleasant. I mean, it'll make it more pleasant up until the point where, we put our foot on the brakes only to discover that we hadn't actually put any brake fluid in the car like we were sure we had done without any good reason to be sure of that, right? I mean, that kind of thing, that kind of short-term, not until the disaster hits kind of happiness can occur.
Yep.
But if you actually care, if you actually worry that you might not know all the time what the facts are, then you might pay more damn attention. And those disasters that are going to make you unhappy anyway would be less frequent.
Yep.
So what do you want? Do you want happiness punctuated by frequent disasters? Or do you want, something short of perfect happiness with less frequent disasters in it? I go for number 2.
Yeah.
Because, I can deal with being unhappy. Can't deal with, car going off the edge of the cliff and killing me.
Right.
We got to do a whole philosophy-related thing.
Yeah, sure.
I'm reading a book, by the way, so I'd like to hype for the show. It's called Doubt. The author is Jennifer Hecht, and it's a history of civilization focusing on the doubters in different cultures, right? Heretics, unbelievers, doubters. Not always necessarily unbelievers, right? Because a lot of doubters doubt the official word from the religion, but still believe there's some kind of God, for example, right? And this one thing that the Pope said at the end of that about, that argument about whether reason can know anything for sure, that is a very central theme that runs through all of these stories about doubters throughout history. Because those are the people that recognize that whatever the received wisdom is could be wrong.
Right. I've been fooled before. I can be fooled again.
Yeah. Russell.
Yeah.
Would you care to do another bit of news?
Not news, but I'm just full of funny stuff today.
Well, cool.
Full of funny stuff.
Now, as we say in alt atheism, set your irony meters to low, because we're going to have the most ironic thing ever uttered by Billy Graham today.
Ooh, wow.
Billy Graham has a syndicated column called My Answer.
What a prick. Man, if I didn't know anything else about the guy, I would say he's an ass just for naming his own column that.
Yeah. My aunt keeps sending me books and pamphlets about the religious group she belongs to. She's kind of fanatical about it, although my mom says it's a cult, and she's probably right. How can I politely tell her not to keep after me and yet not offend her? PL.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah.
The answer's gonna be good.
Dear PL, members of religious cults often are strongly convinced that they and they alone are right and everyone else is wrong.
Yeah? You're right, Billy.
Your aunt may very well be like this. Unfortunately, members of cults are often very hard to convince that they might be wrong.
Yeah? I think he's right again.
Yeah.
You're dead on target, Billy. I take it back. This guy's brilliant. Go on.
Some cults have a very strong central leader, and their members are afraid of resisting him.
Says the guy writing the My Answer column. Yeah?
Other cults make their members feel very proud because they alone know the truth, and they become closed-minded because they can't bear the thought that they might be wrong.
This is amazing. It's a new irony every paragraph.
No, this is still the first paragraph.
Every sentence.
The Bible warns that pride often blinds us to God. In his pride, the wicked does not seek him. In all his thoughts, there is no room for God. Psalm 10:4.
My answer.
Not God's answer.
No, my answer.
Uh-huh.
I speak for God.
Yeah. My point is this. Don't be surprised if your aunt keeps on sending you material and trying to convert you, no matter what you say to her. Yes, politely but clearly tell her you aren't interested, but don't be surprised if she refuses to listen. Instead, pray for her and ask God to show her the truth, which is the good news about Jesus. Which, of course, I alone know.
Every sentence.
Down inside, she is on a spiritual search, and only the living God can satisfy her inner hunger. And if you have never given your own life to Jesus Christ, do so without delay.
My, how can they be so blissfully unaware of the irony in that? That's...
Well,
it's unbelievable.
You ever encounter atheists that want you to shut the hell up about being an atheist?
Yeah,
and the kind of atheists that worry about atheists proselytizing. Mm-hmm. Getting back to that other scary thing I mentioned earlier, right? I mean, when you are aware that you might be wrong, you got to deal with stuff like that, right? You got to deal if atheists are people who recognize that they might be wrong. It's awfully. There are frequent reminders from your fellow atheists that whenever you give people your own viewpoint or advice or whatever, that you might be wrong, and therefore you damn well better not, present your views strongly because you might be wrong.
Right.
I really think the answer is we need to do a show on philosophy and figure, and talk about how much certainty, how much trust we can put in the conclusions that we come up with.
Right. What's justified and what's not.
Yeah, because we need as much justification as possible. We just don't want to go over the brink into making shit up and believing that.
And it can be as simple as, prefacing your statements with, in my opinion, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but you were asking, how can religious people be so oblivious to that kind of irony?
Yeah.
I think it's because it's necessary for them to either already be that way or to teach each other to be that way in order for a thing like religion to exist in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? They can't afford... The churches do not have people sitting up in the pews going, "Oh, excuse me, Pastor, that thing you just said, I don't think your interpretation is quite right."
Right.
They don't do that. They don't tolerate it, and so they're trained to.
Hence the schisms. They can't tolerate any variance.
Right.
And so it has to create a new schism if an idea catches on.
Right. It would be much more dangerous for the rest of us, I think, if their reaction to the existence of a similar religion that doesn't exactly agree with them was more like, okay, let's get together and work out those differences and become a single, twice as big religion. That would be much, much, much scarier.
It would be dangerous.
I'm glad that they have this Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm. But boy, listening to them tear into each other.
I love that.
Both sides completely unaware of the irony of their attacks.
Well,
wow.
One good explanation I heard recently about all the splits in the church is that, the church evolves with the times. They just can't help it. But every once in a while, a group of people will see the evolution that's been happening recently, and they'll say they don't like it, and they'll say, we're going to get back to what the church was originally meant to be.
Or
and hence a new branch is...
Or secede and form your own state.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
The good old days.
You remember earlier when I was talking about the Archbishop of Canterbury and how he wants British theists to convince one another to start being Christians?
Yeah.
Okay.
I misstated that. He wants British theists to convince British atheists to start being Christians. And it mentioned that he had a debate with Philip Pullman.
Yeah.
Make way for Lyra, another young wizard that has captured the British imagination. Move over, Harry Potter. The next British invasion of the American imagination is being led by a precocious young girl named Lyra, who lives in a world of mystical animal companions, magical knives, and talking bears. Lyra Belacqua is the heroine of His Dark Materials, a young adult fantasy trilogy by Philip Pullman that has enthralled young Brits and inspired a perpetually sold-out 2-part, 6-hour play at London's National Theatre.
Wow.
With a 3-movie deal by New Line Cinema, Lyra may join Harry Potter, Frodo Baggins, and Luke Skywalker in Hollywood's pantheon of fantasy heroes. A popular British children's writer, Pullman published the first book of his trilogy, Northern Lights, later renamed The Golden Compass, in 1996. It was followed by The Subtle Knife and The Amber Spyglass. The trilogy has sold more than 7 million copies and been translated into 37 languages. Literary heavyweight Tom Stoppard is writing the screenplay for the first of the 3 movies. Production is expected to start late this year. In Lyra's world... Oh, excuse me, let me back up a paragraph. Pullman has been described as the atheist answer to C.S. Lewis, who authored the Christian-oriented Narnia series, and a non-believer offering an alternate viewpoint of the fall from Eden.
Mm-hmm.
In Lyra's world, every person is born with a demon or animal companion which reflects the person's inner personality. Lyra, a half-wild urchin, sets out to discover who has been kidnapping children, including her best friend, but all the adults around Lyra, including her dashing uncle, seem to have sinister agendas. Lyra later finds an authoritarian church is behind the kidnapping, and a supreme being known as the Authority is senile, not all-knowing.
I want to read that now.
Life after death is neither life nor death as we know it in the Judeo-Christian tradition. Pullman's work is a darker world for children than the one found in Lewis's books or even the Tolkien world, said Cynthia Ritchie, president of the Association of Library Services to Children, a division of the American Library Association. Evil is not necessarily vanquished in that series. Librarians strongly suggest the trilogy only be led by those aged 13 and up. Yet Ritchie, like many librarians and bookstore owners, praises Pullman's writing, his sophistication, and his imagination. We love it. It's fabulous, said Terry Schmitz, owner of the children's bookshop in Brookline. Certainly we don't sell it in the numbers of Harry Potter, but we sell tons. People love it. Dennis and I have both read this series. Yeah. I think it is great from the perspective of an atheist. I don't quite get what other people see in it. Because I don't think it's that astonishingly well written. But there are some themes in it that, as an atheist, excuse me, I'm hiccuping like mad.
Well, it's a big hit in Britain, where most of them are basically atheists.
Maybe
anyway.
that's it. Maybe that's it. But
maybe it can come to the U.S. and get outlawed here.
If New Line Cinema thinks that they can make 3 movies out of it, and Tom Stoppard is writing the screenplay to the first one.
Oh, really?
It's pretty impressive.
Well, but
I would love to see that take off.
What is that? The Da Vinci Code is also a big hit here these days, which from all accounts I've heard is highly critical of the church and not very well written either.
Well, Dennis, do you have more?
Oh, let's see. I have the Bush campaign seeks help from congregations.
What's that all about?
Well, the Bush campaign is seeking to enlist thousands of religious congregations around the country in distributing campaign information and registering voters, according to an email message sent to many members of the clergy and others in Pennsylvania.
Wait, can they do that?
That's a good question. Liberal groups charged that the effort invited violations of the separation of church and state and jeopardized the tax-exempt status of churches that cooperated.
That's what I would have thought.
Some socially conservative church leaders also said they would advise pastors against participating in such a partisan effort. But Steve Schmidt, a spokesman for the Bush administration, said, people of faith had just as much right to participate in the political process as any other community.
But that's not what this is about.
No, it's not.
This is about the seated government, right? What is the administration?
The current administration using,
going specifically to religious groups to use them as a tool to win.
Right.
That's what this is about. Now, certainly, people who are in churches can be aware of what's going on politically, and they can vote for whoever the hell they want. But separation of church and state dictates that the church itself can't be involved in telling people which way to vote.
Right. Otherwise,
Okay. However, now I've read some further comments on this particular issue. It is true that Democratic campaigns have done similar things.
Right.
I think they should all frickin' stop.
Yes.
All of them. Churches are places where people go to believe some stupid shit together. That's fine. They have that right. Leave them alone.
Yep.
Is there... would you like to say more on this subject?
Not at this time.
Russell, on to you.
Federal court dismisses lawsuit challenging Ten Commandments monument in Utah. So this is kind of bad, but the reason he dismissed the lawsuit is interesting.
Okay.
The American Center for Law and Justice, which...
Those assholes.
Yes. Starring Jay Sekulow, which specializes in constitutional law and attempting to destroy it, said today it is pleased that a federal court has dismissed a lawsuit challenging the public display of a monument of the Ten Commandments that has been on display in a Utah city since the early 70s. In a decision issued May 28th and received today, June 1st, the U.S. District Court in Salt Lake City has dismissed a suit against the city of Pleasant Grove. Now here's the reasoning. Judge Jenkins stated that the monument is protected by a decision in 1973 of Anderson versus Salt Lake City Corporation, in which the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit, of which Utah is a part, gave deference to history in describing a monument inscribed with the Ten Commandments as primarily secular and not religious in character, that neither its purpose nor effect tends to establish religious belief.
Do we have a description of this the actual item?
The actual item.
Yeah. Do you have a description of it? Like, what else is on it? No?
I don't see it, but I would imagine it would have been one of those faux things.
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
Right. So that 1973 ruling is bullshit.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, so, Francis J. Mannion, senior counsel of the ACLJ, said, "This is a very important decision that shows that the court understands the historical significance of this monument," which I guess is strikes me as a little ironic, because the ACLJ is working their hardest to make America Christian again, and they're gleefully celebrating a victory where they basically said, okay, it can stay because it's secular.
Yeah, they don't care. They have no shame.
Mm-hmm.
They will accept any victory they can. They will say that, and then they will turn right around and start claiming themselves that, this proves God is working through our government and proves that our religion owns the government.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And then when they're dragged back into court, they'll go back to that court case and say, see, but those people said, doesn't matter what we say, those people said it was secular. They don't care. They do not freaking care.
Can I just, real quick, use this opportunity to mention who my City of Heroes character is?
Sure.
Go for it.
A few shows ago, you guys were talking about being in the beta of City of Heroes, a massively multiplayer online role-playing game. The character that I have been playing with since the game came out a couple of months ago is named Seculo. It's spelled Seculo.
Like the guy, Jay Sekulow.
Right. The guy, Jay Sekulow, is Sekulow.
Right.
And even though it's badly spelled, it's still the most ironic name in America. Only not anymore, because according to my character biography, Jay Sekulow saw reason and gave up trying to promote theocracy and went on fighting for truth and justice. So if any of you...
and that's inspired me to make my new superhero character,
yes,
Adolf Hitler. Well, that's all right, Russell. I get the joke.
Anyway, if anyone wants to play with Sekulow, I'm on the Virtue server. Just add me to your friends list.
Okay. How about some funny stuff?
Funny stuff.
Kind of lighten the mood. Ready? I'll do one.
Go for it.
It's my turn.
Go for it.
Jews worry that New York City's water may not be kosher. Way on the top of the list that I think is extremely stupid about religion is how it has these bullshit laws about what you can eat and what you can't eat. Orthodox Jews in New York have become concerned that the city's drinking water may not be kosher because it contains tiny crustaceans known as copepods.
Oh!
And since those copepods have not been killed in the correct religious manner, they can't be eaten up.
And they're microscopic.
I'm jumping ahead. The organisms, which measure about 1 millimeter long, pose no threat to human health, according to the City Department of Environmental Protection. But Orthodox teaching bars the eating of crustaceans, aquatic animals with skeletons outside their bodies, including shrimp, crab, and lobsters. Oh, that's why.
They can convince themselves they're not eating them. Because they should be able to convince themselves that to eat, you have to chew. We're drinking them.
Yeah, nobody ever accused Judaism of making any sense either.
No.
So, the organisms first came to the attention of Jewish leaders in Brooklyn 2 weeks ago, the New York Times reported Tuesday. An Israeli produce company that exports kosher vegetables to New York alleged that its products had become infested with insects after being washed in the city's water. An examination of the water under a microscope revealed the copepods, which are common in unfiltered ocean water and groundwater. The city's supply comes mostly from reservoirs upstate and rates high enough under federal standards not to be filtered. Saul Kessler, owner of a Queens business that sells water filters, said he had received about 100 phone calls from homeowners eager to weed the copepods out of their drinking water.
You know, as Neutron Jack says, this is why the ancient Israelites only drank bottled water.
That is an extremely good point. It's like no Jew has ever been kosher then, ever. Wow.
Oh.
Interesting. What else we got? Are we done?
We got about 5 minutes, and do we want to get to talking about that movie, or do we just...
I don't think 5 minutes does it enough justice. Why don't we just put that off till next time, and we'll...
Can we throw out a plug for it?
Sure.
Okay, semi-independent film, I think. It's called Stupidity. We've all seen it.
Yes, we've all three seen it, and also Karen Glasser was going to be joining us today, but then decided she had more important things to do.
An entertaining movie about various aspects of stupidity, including how we sort of glorify it and at the same time are afraid of it.
And they make an interesting observation that there's not many studies of stupidity.
Right. The movie is... my short comment on the film is that it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's sort of the point. That, I mean, they show us there's like 6 or 8 books out on the subject of human stupidity. And they interview practically every single one of the authors in the course of this one documentary. You shouldn't be able to do that on a subject that's important. You know? You shouldn't be able to find every single author on the planet and talk to them.
Who's done something about this subject.
Yeah. But it's pretty cool, and it has some stuff to say about religion, so we will cover that in the next show.
Stuff.
My wrap-up thing, then, is we've been talking about Roy Moore for quite some time.
Yes.
Right? The Alabama Supreme Court Justice, Ten Commandments idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And how we're hoping that he'll run for president so that he'll steal some votes from George Bush.
Yeah.
That appears like it's not going to happen.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, maybe you'll get an appointment from the Vatican.
Not a Catholic man. Sure, he's Baptist.
You know, we told our listeners to encourage this guy and send him money. You guys just didn't do it well enough. I lay the blame squarely on you.
Let me quick read the story. Former of Alabama Justice Roy Moore has decided to petition the U.S. Supreme Court to give him his old job back. It's a futile gesture. Even if the Supreme Court agrees to hear the case, which seems unlikely, there's no chance that it will overturn the April 30 decision by the Alabama Supreme Court. Moore has said he will not consider a run for President of the United States until after he's done with this lawsuit. Damn. Moore won't hear anything from the Supreme Court for months, and in the meantime, the Constitution Party, which was the likeliest vehicle for a Moore presidential run, chooses its presidential nominee at the end of this month.
Well, can't we get somebody just as good? I mean, you know, James Dobson might be available, or...
Sadly, no. That leaves no time for Moore to become the Republican Ralph Nader, which would gladden the hearts of Democrats by siphoning away Christian votes from George Bush. Moore's spokeswoman, Jessica Atterbury, told the reporter that Moore is not saying anything about what the Supreme Court appeal would mean for a possible presidential run, but the handwriting is on the wall. So, based on what he has said, if he won't run until after he hears back from the Supreme Court, then he's not going to run. This time around. If Moore seeks any political office, the heavy betting now is that it will be governor of Alabama.
Which I hate, because he could actually win that, unlike the presidency run.
And get back some credibility. In Alabama's June 1 primary, 3 candidates allied with Moore's Decalogue crusade sought Republican nominations to fill 2 Supreme Court vacancies and oust 1 court incumbent. The vacancies did not go to the Moorites, but Tom Parker, a former Moore aide, did manage to oust Justice Gene Brown. That's enough to make Moore look like a kingmaker. Moore's attorney, Philip Jaguari, lost his primary challenge to Representative Spencer Backus. That means he'll have plenty of time to work on that Supreme Court petition. It's due on August 5th.
I think we need to start we need to start a campaign to have them not called Moorites, but called morons.
Well, okay, we've had a fine show. We're going to take this opportunity to, actually slowly wrap things up instead of hectically at the last minute like we did last time. So this show was recorded. A few people got to hear us live that happened to be in the Atheist Network chat room when the technical problems arose. My support goes out to the Atheist Network for in this difficult time as they try to deal with the technical problem.
We had 9 unique listeners at the end.
Awesome. And thanks, everybody that was listening for listening. Otherwise, thanks for downloading our show from the website.
Yeah.
And we will see you again in 2 weeks, which will be on the 19th.
Okay, bye, everyone.